Next, we want to look at quadratic inequalities. A quadratic inequality is inequality can be written in the form ax squared plus bx plus c is less than 0. Of course, it could be greater than, less than or equal, or greater than or equal for real numbers a, b, and c where a is not equal to 0. We're going to solve these by using the test point method. We're going to use it for solving quadratics. Does not involve doing the graph of the quadratic function. The strategy for solving it using test points. The first thing you do is get 0 on one side of the inequality, the quadratic polynomial on the other side. So you basically set it, have a 0 on one side, everything else on the other. And you find all the roots of the quadratic polynomial and plot them on the number line. You do that by putting in a 0 and solving the quadratic equation. You select a test point at each interval determined by the roots and evaluate the quadratic function at each test point and determine the solution set from the signs of the function at the test points. If there are no real solutions to the quadratic equation that corresponds to a quadratic inequality, the solution set is either the empty set or all real numbers. So if there are no roots to the quadratic equation, then it's either the empty set or all real numbers depending on what the inequality says. So here's one to try. We have this inequality on one side equal to 0. So the first thing we're going to, on one side with 0 on the other, the first thing we're going to do is put that 0 in as an equation, and this is a factorable equation, x minus 5 and x plus 3 equals 0. So x equals 5 and x equals negative 3. These become my points to divide this number line. So there's 0, 2, 4. Here will be 5 will be a point, and negative 3 will be a point. This is my first interval A. So we want to pick a number in that interval and put it in the inequality. So I'll say I pick negative 4. Negative 4 is going to be what I test. So I'll do that. I'll get 16 plus 8 minus 15. It'll be 24 minus 15, 9. This interval gives me a positive number. Interval B, I always pick 0 whenever it's in an interval because it's an easy one to do, because then I just have negative 5 and my answer was a negative. And interval C, I try to go with small ones, so I'm going to use 6. I'll get 36 minus 12 minus 15. 36 minus 12 would be 24 minus 15, so it'd be 9 again. So this also turned out to be a positive. My inequality asks for the inequality to be less than or equal to 0. So we want the negative values, and because it was or equal, we will have the endpoints. So my solution set here would be, including the endpoints, negative 3 to 5. Those will be brackets because I'm including the endpoints. If I were graphing that, here it is, graph on my number line. Do that again. This time, we'll make the equation x squared minus 11x minus 4 equals 0. I think I can factor it. 3x and x. If I put 4 and 1, this will give me 1x and 12x. If it's negative 12x, positive 1, that would give me a negative 11. So x here would turn out to be negative 1/3, and x here will be 4. So those become my points to use to divide up the interval. Negative 1/3 will be here. Become my points for dividing up the interval. So interval A, I'm going to pick the negative 1. So I'm going to pick a negative 1. Negative 1 squared would be 1 times 3. 3 plus 11 minus 4. 14 minus 4, 10. This interval A turns out to be positive. Interval B, here's where my 0 is, so I'm going to use it. So when I fill in 0, I'll get 0 minus 4, turns out to be negative. And the C interval, I'm going to use the 0.5. So 5 squared is 25 times 3, 75 minus 55 minus 4. That will give me 20 minus 4, or 16. That's a positive. Yes, on your paper, I want to see where you check the intervals. Now, in this case, I want it to be greater than 0. So that means my points for equals will not count. But greater than 0, where it's positive, will be from negative infinity to negative 1/3, parentheses. And we're going to combine that with 4 to infinity, both with parentheses since the point is not included. And on my graph of my number line, here that way, and parentheses, also going to the right. There would be my graph.